Hi all, welcome back to another economics video lecture. This lecture is just a continuation of what we had done in our previous lecture. Just to remind you, those who have seen, well and good, and those who have not, please visit on to Maharashtra College channel, official YouTube channel, and there you will find the videos. Alright, so to continue with chapter number 3A of your HSC board textbook, which we had started in the previous video lecture. Okay, so today in this particular class we are going to learn about determinants of demand. Okay, in our previous lecture we learned about the definition of demand, how a simple wish, how a simple desire becomes demand. We studied about individual demand, we studied about market demand, and we also learned that demand, the individual demand, is a microeconomic concept, whereas the aggregate demand, that is the market demand, is a macroeconomic concept. So today we are going to take the chapter a bit more forward, and we are going to study the determinants of demand, which means the factors that will bring about a change in demand. What are those factors? Okay, and another important thing that we are going to learn in today's class is the law of demand, given by Professor Alfred Marshall in his book Principles of Economics. I hope this rings the bell, and we had done this in the first chapter of your 11th standard textbook, the last year textbook. Okay, so you are aware with the name, that is Alfred Marshall. You are aware with his book, that is the Principle of Economics, and in his book he has given certain laws, out of which one law is the law of demand, that we are going to cover up in today's lecture. Okay, and we are going to do a bit few other things also, like for example assumptions of the law of demand. Now before we start with the determinants of demand, that is the factors that change the demand, in simple language I want to introduce to you the law of demand given by Professor Alfred Marshall in Principles of Economics. Of course, this law we are going to do in detail with the diagram, that is with the schedule and with the curve, but right now, before starting the determinants, just a little just a little gist of what the law of demand is all about. Okay, when you open your books or when you see the law of demand given by Professor Alfred Marshall, it begins with a phrase that is, the other things remain constant, or the other things remain equal. The other things. Alright? The other things. This is the phrase, the other things. Okay? I hope you remember this phrase when we had done chapter number 1, that is microeconomics. Okay, when we were studying the features of microeconomics, we came across this phrase where we studied about partial equilibrium, that is, the other things remain constant. Okay, remain constant or remains equal. Okay, so this is the phrase with which the definition or the statement of the law of demand starts. Other things remain constant. Okay, so here Alfred Marshall is trying to grab your attention towards other things. Now what are these other things? Okay, these other things are those factors, are those determinants of demand which change your demand. Okay, now what are the things that change demand? That of course we are going to do after I give you a gist of the law. ओके, सो यहाँ पर अल्फ्रेड मार्शल आपको बताना चाह रहे हैं कि डिमांड कुछ चीज़ों पर डिपेंड करता है. वो चीज़ें क्या है? some other things. Okay, we are not aware what are these other things are right now, but once we do the determinants of demand, we will get to know what are these other things. Okay, Alfred Marshall says other things remain constant, but when price changes, it has a huge impact on the demand. So he is giving you a statement: other things remain constant when the price of a commodity is greater, the demand is going to be smaller, and when the price of the commodity will reduce, or it will decrease, or it will fall, automatically the demand for that commodity is going to rise. So in simple terms, if in simple letters, if I write, Alfred Marshall is trying to say that other things remain constant when price is rising, when price is going up of any commodity, let us say vegetables, fruits, or a single apple or a mango, whatever. When the price is rising, the demand is going to fall, and when the price is falling, the demand is going to rise. So you see, these two arrows are moving in opposite direction. The first one is moving upwards. So when the price is rising, the demand is falling. When the price is falling, the demand is rising. Here he is trying to explain you that price and demand have an inverse relationship. They are not moving in the same direction. Instead, they are moving in the opposite direction. When one is rising, the other is falling. Okay, why does this happen? It's a human tendency. All right, we go to the market, we see something expensive, we don't really buy it. Okay, we analyze that how much utility or how much satisfaction this product is going to give me, and if we feel that no, it's not worth it, okay, it's too expensive, we don't buy it. And on the other hand, if after a few days you go to the market and you see the price has fallen down, you will buy it because you will get more amount of satisfaction than the money you are spending. All right, so it's a human tendency. Whenever the things have become expensive, you control your demands, and whenever the things become cheap, you go and buy them more. All right, so this is the basic simple law of demand, which Alfred Marshall says other things remain constant only when price is changing. When price is going up, the demand is dropping, and when the price will drop, automatically the demand is going to rise. All right, so this is the basic gist of the law of demand. Of course, we'll do the diagram, the curve, and the schedule later on. But now coming back to determinants of demand. Okay, so I just erase this. What are the determinants of demand? वो चीज़ें जो हमारे डिमांड को बदल सकती है, the factors that are bringing about the change in demand, they are known as determinants of demand, or the factors affecting demand. All right, determinants of demand. All right, DD stands for demand. Okay, the first important thing that according to Professor Marshall we studied, price is the most important factor that is bringing about a change in your demand. How? Very simple. I just told you, it's a human tendency. Whenever a thing becomes expensive, you control your demands, your demand reduces. Whenever a thing becomes cheap, you buy it more. So price is the most important factor. Price of a commodity is the most important factor which is going to change the demand, be it individual demand or be it market demand. Because price is changing, definitely the demand has to change. All right, now there are certain exceptions also. वो केसेस भी है जहाँ पर प्राइस बदलने पर डिमांड पर कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, that we are going to do further. But as of now, the first point says that price is the most important determinant factor which is going to change the demand. As and when the price rises, the demand falls. As and when the price falls, the demand rises. This is correct according to the law of demand as well. All right, next point. Second thing, the second factor which brings about a change in your demand is your income. Alright, all of you will agree, all of us will agree that when I'm earning more, or I have a good salary, I have a good source of income, I have a lot of money, of course, so I'm going to spend more, I'm going to demand more commodities. Whereas if my income reduces, or God forbid I lose my job, my income has now reduced because I have no salary, so automatically I will curb my demands, I will control my demands. I'm not going to demand as much as I was demanding when I had a fixed income. Alright, so here for example, income stands, Y stands for income. When my income is more, it is high, that time my demand will also be high. When my income is falling, my demand will also fall. Okay, in the previous case here we saw that when price was increasing, demand was falling, and when price was falling, demand was increasing. Okay, this is an inverse case of inverse relationship where the arrows are moving in opposite direction. But this income and demand, this is the case of direct relationship, because both are moving in the similar direction. It is obvious, when you have more money, when you have more income, you're going to demand more. Let us for example take the celebrities. All right, they have a lot of income, so that is why they have a lavish lifestyle, they demand each and everything. All right, so when your income is more, automatically your demand is going to be high. When your income is falling, your demand will also fall. So price and demand have an inverse relationship, whereas income and demand have a direct relationship. Okay, I hope I'm clear. Let's move further. Point number 3, the third thing that is bringing about a change in the demand, that is price of substitute goods. Okay, now in the previous lecture where we had done types of demand, that time we studied something that is known as competitive and substitute and composite. Okay, I hope you remember all that. यहाँ पर आपको बताया गया है कि प्राइस, सब्स्टिट्यूट गुड्स का प्राइस उसके डिमांड को भी बदल सकता है. Now what are substitute goods? Basic example that I had given to you was tea and coffee. Okay, now if the price of tea is rising, okay, when the tea becomes expensive, the price of tea is rising. What will happen to the demand of tea? According to the law of demand, if the price of tea is rising, its demand is going to fall. We did it over here. Okay, मान लीजिए ये आपको टी का दिया हुआ है डिमांड, ओके, और प्राइस. टी का प्राइस बढ़ रहा है तो ऑटोमेटिकली उसका डिमांड कम हो जाएगा. दिस इज ट्रू एज पर द लॉ ऑफ डिमांड. ओके, बट what will happen to the demand of coffee? Here, because tea is becoming expensive, its demand is dropping. So what will happen? It will result to people switching on to coffee because they are finding tea is expensive. They are moving on to coffee. So because there was a change in the price of tea, its demand was affected. But on the same hand, the demand for the coffee is also changing, because now people are demanding more of coffee as it is cheaper than tea. So यहाँ पर क्या हुआ? टी का प्राइस बदला. Only the change that is happening is in the price of that particular commodity, that is your tea. But it is bringing about a change in the demand for coffee because people are switching to coffee as they don't want the expensive tea. So here, price of one good is affecting the demand for other. The rising price of tea is affecting the demand of coffee. So this becomes another determinant which is changing the demand for other product. One product, change in the price of one product is bringing about the change in the demand of another product. All right, I hope it is clear. Next one, Another factor that is bringing about a change in demand is price of here we have done substitute goods, price of complementary goods. Okay, this also we had done in our previous class, where I explained to you complementary goods are those goods which are required jointly. All right. For example, car and petrol. These two commodities are demanded jointly. If you don't have a car and you have a lot of petrol, it's of no use. Or if you have a car but you don't have petrol or gas for it, the car is of no use. So in order to fulfill your desire of driving a car, you need car and petrol both hand in hand, both jointly. Now, how will this affect these two products? How will they affect each other? Very simple. Let us, for example, take the prices of car. Okay, is increasing. Okay, the same example. The same concept. The price of car is rising. Automatically, what will happen? The demand for car will fall. This holds true as per the law of demand given by Alfred Marshall. Alright. So price of the car is rising and the demand for the car is falling. Alright, as per the law. But what happens to the demand of petrol? Here, if the demand for car is falling, the demand for petrol will also fall, because we are not going to buy only one commodity. We need both jointly. We need both of them together for one single demand. So here the price of car, the rising price of car, in one place it has changed the demand for car, but also it has changed the demand for petrol, because nobody is going to buy just the petrol. Okay, if you have car only, then you are going to buy the petrol. So here the price of car is changing. The changed price of car is bringing about a change in the demand for car as well as its complementary good, that is the petrol. So here the determinant of demand that we are doing, price of complementary goods. These two complementary goods are changing. They are having an effect on each other. One's price is changing, the other's demand. All right. I hope this is clear so far. So I will just clear this much and then we move on to the next one. Point number 5. Alright, next point says the nature of the good. Okay, certain things that we use are very much necessary for our survival. But on the other hand, some things that we use are not very necessary for our survival. Like for example, alright, the nature of goods. Some goods are necessities, which you need them on any cost, and other goods are luxuries. Alright, let us for example take necessities. Some necessities of life are very much needed. Okay, one basic example that I can give you is for example, cancer patient. Alright, for a cancer patient, the chemotherapy injections are very, very, very important. Okay, मान लीजिए वो उसकी जिंदगी है. If you do not give that patient chemotherapy injections, the patient is of course going to die. Okay, now other people as a relative, they play a very important role. They feel like saving the life of this particular person because of emotional attachments. Now here the chemotherapy injections are a must for survival. They are necessary goods. So if the pharmaceutical company rises the price of these injections, of the chemotherapy injections, people are not going to stop buying it. Why? Because it is needed for survival. If, for example, chemotherapy injection costs you 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 bucks per injection, and if the prices are going up to 50,000, you are going to sell off all your jewelry. You are going to do overtime. Why? Because you want to save the life of that person. So you're going to work hard and you're going to take a loan or whatever, but you will try to arrange money. Here, the change in the price of this product is not affecting the demand of that product. Why? Because it is a necessity of life. कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें होती हैं जिनका अगर प्राइस बदल दिया जाए तो उनके डिमांड पर कोई असर नहीं पड़ता. एज पर द लॉ ऑफ डिमांड, लॉ ऑफ डिमांड कहता है कि फर्क पड़ना चाहिए. व्हेन प्राइस इज राइजिंग डिमांड शुड फॉल. बट सर्टेन नेसेसिटीज ऑफ लाइफ आर सच whereby change in the price will not bring about any change in the demand of that commodity. Now let us for example take the same chemotherapy injections. They are given free of cost. Okay, in some government hospital the chemotherapy injections are given free of cost. Now because it is free of cost, will I take double dose of it? Of course not. If I take a double dose, it will lead to dissatisfaction, as we did in the previous chapter where we studied utility. Taking more injections will lead to another complication. It will lead to dissatisfaction. All right. So even if the price of chemotherapy injection is rising, it will have no effect on the demand, and even if it is falling, it will have no effect on the demand. So that is the nature of goods, how important these goods are. Let us for example take another one, like for example salt. All right, salt is a very cheap product. All right, because it is a necessity of life, and it is, I think, some half or 1 kg of salt is costing us 20 to 30 rupees, not more than that. Okay, what happens if the price of salt becomes 5 rupees per kg? Will I add 3 extra spoons of salt in my food? Of course not, because it is going to spoil my food. It will become harmful. It will become tasteless first of all, and it will lead to a lot of harm if I consume it. So the price of salt is falling here, but it will have no change in its demand, because if I use excessive salt, it will lead to dissatisfaction. All right, so this point of satisfaction and dissatisfaction is very important when you study demand. Okay, when you are consuming anything which is not useful for you, it will lead to dissatisfaction for you. So even if the price of your salt is dropping down, or even if it is available to you free of cost, you're not going to increase its demand. Why? Because if you increase the demand, it is going to lead to dissatisfaction. It is going to spoil your food. So certain things, certain necessities of life are such which have no relationship with the price, and demand have no relationship with each other. It is needed means it is needed. No ifs and no buts. All right, I hope it is clear. We move on to the next point, another determinant, size of population. All right, when the word population is given to you, you must understand that it is a macroeconomic concept, because it is aggregate, it is something that is total. Okay, here we are talking about the market demand, the aggregate demand, and not the individual demand. As in when the population rises, of course the demand is going to rise. Basic example, in initial days our country was very much self-sufficient when it came to food. Okay, we were producing so much food that we could fill the mouths of all the people living in our country. But slowly and gradually, when the population started increasing, we started facing problems like food insecurities and food shortages and so on. So as and when the population will increase, of course the demand of that population is going to rise, it's going to increase. All right, next one. The next one is advertisements. All right, the TV ads. Okay, the more and more product you are going to advertise, the more and more it's going to be demanded. All right, why do these companies give so much of advertisements on TVs? You see BST buses, you see the BST bus stop, also the walls on the highways, they've been painted so much. And now you have the online marketing, that is on Instagram and Facebook. You have these promotions of your page or of your products. Why do companies do that? Companies do that to make you aware of the commodities that you have. You should make the people familiar. You should let the people know how good your commodity is, what is the price of your commodity, how you are better than the others, because there is a tough competition in the market today. You need to advertise your product. When you're going to advertise more people are going to come to know about your product, and obviously if more are becoming aware, more will be demanded. Basic examples of all the products that are available to you, all the different brands of shampoos, of soaps, everything that is available to you in the market, everything is advertised, and then looking at the advertisement we get attracted and then we buy those things. Okay, one basic technique of advertisement is providing free samples. Okay, sometimes you get a little sachet of shampoos or oils with the newspaper attached. All right, so why does the company do that? Just because the sales, the demand for their product should rise and should increase. All right, next point, expectations of future. A very simple point, a very a point which you're already aware of. Okay, if I have certain speculations about future, for example, the price of this particular commodity is going to fall on in future, in near future it is going to observe a drop in the price. So today I'm not going to buy it. Why? Because today it is expensive. Tomorrow when it becomes cheaper, I'm going to buy it. So that way I'm going to save my money also. Basic example is gold. Okay, people don't really buy it when it is expensive, but they buy it when for the jewelry purpose. People don't really buy it when it is really very expensive. They wait for the time when the prices come down to normal and then they buy it, okay, for maximum profit or for maximum satisfaction or for maximum utility. So certain items are such where you have a future expectation or you have a speculation. One more basic example I can give you is of the properties. Okay, today many people feel that we should buy properties in certain rural areas or in certain suburbs, and in future the price of these properties are going to rise, so we will make a lot of money, we will be in profit. So these are future expectations, wherein today you will demand more if it is cheaper, and tomorrow it is going to become expensive, and today you will not demand if it is expensive and you will wait for tomorrow when the price is going to fall. So these are expectations about futures. Next point, I will just erase this. Next point is your taste, your habits and your preferences. Alright, taste and habits and fashion and your preferences. As and when the fashion changes, as and when the trend changes, we move with the trend and we stop demanding that particular thing. A very simple example that I can give you is the keypad phones that were in huge demand in the previous days. I remember in my college days we had these phones like Nokia N72 and Nokia N73, which had shutter cameras. So it was a lot in demand in those days. But slowly and gradually, as the fashion changed, as the technology changed, as the tastes and preferences of the people changed, we have now new phones, the smartphones, wherein there is no keypad at all. Alright, so जैसे जैसे फैशन बदलता जाएगा, जैसे जैसे लोगों की आदतें बदलती जाएंगी, जैसे जैसे उनकी लाइकिंग्स और डिसलाइक्स बदलती जाएंगी, it will have a change on the demand also. One simple example that I can give you is initial days people had no problem using sugar. Okay, just a few years back, 10 to 12 years back, everybody used to buy sugar and used to consume it, but the trend of healthy lifestyle came in and people stopped using sugar and they moved on to jaggery, the organic jaggery, the good powder that you get in the supermarkets. So this switch, now the demand for sugar has reduced and the demand for honey and for jaggery has increased. So your taste, your preferences have changed the demand. All right, next one. Point number 10, taxation or government policies. Alright, as and when the policies, the taxation policies of government change, it will bring about a change in demand also. Now, what are these taxation policies? Very simple. Before that, just a simple thing would like to explain to you is the concept of disposable income. Now, what is my disposable income? The entire amount of my salary, the entire income that I'm receiving, from that, if I reduce the taxes that I'm going to pay to the government, whatever is left behind for my usage, for my consumption, that is known as disposable income. मान लीजिए, for example, I'm earning a sum of 50,000, all right, and out of which, for example, I'm going to pay 2,000 as my tax. So whatever balance that I have, this is my disposable income, the income in hand which I have for consumption. Okay, now that is another thing, that this will be further divided into your consumption and your saving. That's another story. But disposable income is the income that you have in hand for your consumption. Now, for example, let's say if government is changing the policies and it is increasing the taxes. मान लीजिए यहाँ पर government ने कर दिया 5K. Now, if you are earning 50,000, you have to give 5,000 as tax. What is left with you? 45,000 is left with you, because initially my disposable income was more. I had 3,000 more. I was spending 3,000 more. I was demanding goods worth rupees 3,000 more. But now here what happened? My 3,000 rupees reduced. I am giving more to the government. So I will try to curb my demand. Because the taxation policy of the government changed, it will bring about a change in my disposable income, and hence it will bring about a change in my demand. मान लीजिए गवर्नमेंट ने कहा you are tax free, no limits, no taxes. If you are earning 50, you can keep all 50, you don't have to pay tax. Now here what will happen? Initially I was getting 48 as my disposable income, but now I'm getting the whole 50. So obviously when I'm getting increased disposable income, I'm going to demand more products. So the taxes, the government policies and taxation policies also play a very important role in changing the demand of the market as well as of the individuals. All right. One next point that is given to you in the textbook is a combination of a few points. It's given as other factors, others, like for example a situation like the current situation of the pandemic. Alright, in current situation, you are hoarding a lot of stuffs, a lot of rice, a lot of okay, when the lockdown was announced in the mid-March and the month of April, that time I remember people used to hoard a lot of goods, okay, because they feared due to the pandemic in the future there might be shortages, the shops would be closed and we might not get enough food to eat, and that is why people started storing. So in 1 month their requirement, usually they were buying only 5 kgs of rice, but because of pandemic, because of the situation, they are buying more and they are storing. They are buying 15 kgs of rice. So यहाँ पर demand क्यों increase हुआ? Because just a random factor of a pandemic. Or let's just for example take a war. Okay, a war breaks out and the countries are really in stress. So we might fear that we might not get food. So we will store. So the present demand is changing. Why? Because of the future speculation of the conditions, the environment of the country. Similarly, technology. All right, if a technology changes, the supply will be more and more. Initially you had all those products which were hand woven and handmade, so it was, the supply was not much because the work was manual and it used to take a lot of time. but as and when we got technology, now a lot of goods are produced in one shot, so the supply is more. Automatically, if the supply is more, it is going to change the demand as well. So certain points, certain factors are such, the small factors which are also bringing about a change in the demand. Alright, so after completing these determinants of demand, what we get to know? Price. Price is the most important factor which is going to change your demand. आफ्टर प्राइस, ये बाकी के सारे जितने पॉइंट्स हमने किए 8 से 10 पॉइंट्स, द 9 to 10 पॉइंट्स दैट वी हैव डन अपार्ट फ्रॉम प्राइस, these are the other things according to Professor Alfred Marshall, other things that remain constant. The other things remain constant. What are these other things? Okay, what are these other things other than price? Okay, प्राइस के अलावा हमारे जितने भी फैक्टर्स हैं जो डिमांड को बदल सकते हैं, उन्हें अल्फ्रेड मार्शल कहते हैं द अदर थिंग्स. ऑलराइट, whichever law you are going to study, be it law of demand, be it a law of diminishing marginal utility, be it law of supply, everywhere you are going to come across this phrase of partial equilibrium analysis, where these other things remain constant. What changes? Only price changes, because price is the most important determinant of demand. So according to the law of demand, according to Professor Marshall, these other things are the other factors, the other than the price, that are bringing about a change in demand. So I hope you're clear so far. And in our next particular video lecture, we are going to study about the assumptions. Okay, now what are assumptions of demand? These points, assumptions are the same. What are assumption? If you are assuming, I hope you remember chapter number 1, wherein we studied that microeconomics is based on certain assumptions. What are those assumptions? Those assumptions are when these other things remain constant, only that is changing in the price. So there are certain points of assumptions which are same as the determinants, but यहाँ पर अल्फ्रेड मार्शल अज्यूम कर रहे हैं कि ये सारी चीज़ें नहीं बदल रही, सिर्फ और सिर्फ प्राइस बदला जा रहा है. Those are the assumptions of the law of demand. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you are clear with the determinants of demand, or the factors that are affecting demand. This question can be asked for 4 marks, okay, or can be asked as a 3-mark short notes, or it can be asked as a detailed answer, 8-mark answer. So you should be able to write it. All right, so we stop for the day, and I hope you are following the Maharashtra College channel and you have subscribed to it. If not, then please do like, share and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to give me a feedback of this particular lecture, this particular lecture, so that I can upgrade myself and I can cater to your needs. All right, thank you. Have a great day.